Because I'm thinking as soon as I leave here, the Taliban's coming in. They're going to, as they come through, and then they're coming for us.
The goats chewed the claymore wires. One of the claymores was turned around, pointing the camp.
There were even old Russian mines still that had not been.
We had a lieutenant lose a foot.
Careerists make decisions based on their career, not based on whether it's the right or right thing to do. A professional will make decisions based upon what it's the right or wrong thing to do.
And so by this time, I heard someone hollering, like screaming in pain and agony. And I'm thinking, maybe the Taliban I shot.
He said, "What are we doing?" I said, "We're starting over."
I'm dragging Craddock, and that's when the RPG came, and it just coned out. And it hit me in the back like a baseball bat. And that one I felt. All the others I did not feel to that extent. And it knocked the wind.
You didn't have no gear on, or?
I had no gear on.
You know, I heard this amazing story that JC told me about this amazing gunnery sergeant that became a warrant officer, a limited duty officer, and he was actually an air wing guy. And the story he told me really resonated with me because he, as I said, every Marine claims that they're a rifleman. And basically they are. They can shoot a rifle. But goddamn it, this Gunny made him act like it. And I'm so proud to have him here today. And JC, thank you for telling me about him because I think it's an amazing story.
I think it's really cool the circle of DNA from you and Chris serving together to me and Millage crossing paths a couple times. Every Marine and Rifleman, they say that for a reason. Every guy matters. Just like when we employed our cook in combat, to see an air wing gunny take the personal responsibility to make sure he's creating standoff and increasing the lethality and survivability of his Marines is a special thing. And without further ado, retired LDO Captain Millage Wilson. Millage, man, hey, thanks for joining us, brother.
Hey, welcome here. Thank you, brother, for being on our show.
Ag 16 at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. I was a CW03, so more senior. Millage was a brand new warrant officer. I was in the first B-22 squadron that transitioned from the CH-46
to the Osprey?
To the Osprey. So I was the first one on the West Coast. My squadron was going to be the first squadron to deploy on a West Coast MU, a Marine Expeditionary Unit. Millage's squadron was the second squadron to transition from the Frog to the V-22, and his squadron was going to Afghanistan. So when I first met him, I was a chief warrant officer just like him. And he had a badass avionics chief that was a former comm Marine.
And he was in Anglo-Co.
That's right.
And he was in Somalia.
His avionics chief was a comm Marine that was an Anglo-Co. And so I go down there to introduce myself and to see if he needed anything I could help him with. Because hell, I'd been in I was the first one to transition on the West Coast. So I was just kind of going down to give him all my lessons learned because it's a difficult aircraft to transition to because it was brand new at the time. So I go down there.
So there's very little lesson learned.
No,
right?
And we didn't get any pass down from the East Coast guys that were the ones that transitioned first. So there wasn't a lot of sharing of that knowledge. It was all very.
Who fucked that up?
Well, it was tribal. It wasn't institutional knowledge, right? So you had to defer to the senior O-level chief warrant officer on the flight line and go down and get some knowledge from him. So I went down to introduce myself. And these son of a guns, they had Prick 117 Golfs with SATCOM antennas set up, and I'm like, where the hell did y'all get those? Because it might be hard to believe, but we didn't have those in our inventory.
They were not organic to anything related to the Marine Air Group or anything.
But he had this badass avionics chief that was a former comm guy in Anglo-Co.
And he was making it happen.
He just went over to the Marine Wing Support Squadron
and
he
knew where the fucking SMU was.
He knew where the SMU was at. He got all the cool shit.
Buddy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, we're gonna be a great team. And then Millage and I ended up going to the O Club for that all officers meeting, and that's when
I bet y'all just looked at each other and went, what the fuck?
There was beer there.
It was beer. So he explained to me, I kind of told him my background, and then he starts telling me about this Bagram airfield attack. And I'm like, hold on, let me get another beer. And I was just dumbfounded.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe that an avionics gunnery sergeant was given the latitude by his commanding officer to do what he did at Bagram and to be prepared for that attack.
Now, this story is what gunnery sergeants do.
I served as a drill instructor with Bo and JC. I knew who he was because he was a Marine combat instructor of water survival at the pool. He was more senior than
He was
me.
a drill instructor
And he
too
was
in
a
another
drill instructor
company.
in the same battalion. We weren't in the same company. I didn't have the history that Bo did with him in the infantry. But then talking to Millage 2 weeks ago when he said, hey, I'd like to tell this story first on the JC and Bo show, he started talking about how he knew JC. And I said, whoa, pump the brakes. And I've known Millage for a long time. And I never realized that JC Knight was Millage Wilson's staff NCO advanced course instructor when you were a staff sergeant and JC was a gunny.
Weren't they together in school too?
Yeah, and then we went to
And then they ended up in Warrant Officer Basic together.
Yeah.
And I said, wait, what?
And he talked to me some there, you know.
We have got. Well, the reason that's funny is because the gunners are CWO2s and the normal warrant officers are WO1s. And no offense, JC, but in Warrant Officer Basic, I had a lot of good friends that were gunners, but we all called them the flaming assholes instead of the bursting bomb wearing guys, right? Because my gunner in my platoon was Brett Turek. And I used to run up to him and we'd have to run the double O course, and Brett would be done with one O course running and say, hey, Brett, it's a double O course. He's like, yeah, fuck you, Chris. I'm doing one. I'm good. Yeah. So the gunners got a lot of leeway in Warrant Officer Basic because they're commissioned officers and not appointed officers. But when I heard the connection to Millage being instructed by JC at the career course and taking all those lessons learned and then applying them at the attack that occurred in Bagram when he was with an EA-6B Prowler Squadron, I said, we've got to tell this story because I don't know of any Marine, except for your MMCO that was with you, that was present for 2 airfield attacks in Afghanistan.
Not just one.
2.
Yeah.
2 airfield attacks in Afghanistan, and because of your direct actions at both, you saved a lot of lives and you saved a lot of
Not
assets.
only that, I'm gonna say an infantry word, not because of his direct actions, it was because of his continuing actions.
Absolutely, and you know it's funny how
Tell him, JC.
It's funny how all this happens. In my first experience, the weight and the amount of shit I got put on me as a brand new platoon sergeant. We inherited a base, and I remember Bo showed up a day after me, and he goes, "What's going on here?" I said, "This place is so bad, Bo, that the platoon sergeant and platoon commander were here before me. The goats chewed the claymore wires. One of the claymores was turned around pointing the camp.
Holy
the
shit.
posts were dirty." I said, my lieutenant looked at me. It was so bad. He goes, "Staff
You
sergeant."
couldn't have defended that from a Girl
said,
Scout troop.
He said, "What are we doing?" I said, "We're starting over."
You couldn't
And I
do
took,
that.
and now while I wasn't happy, I felt like I got condemned to the staff academy because I'm a professional, and a lot of the staff NCOs there were careerists. Not me. I didn't want to be there, but I said, you know what, by God, if you're going to give me a platform to talk to sergeants, staff sergeants, gunnery sergeants, and I'm going to be able to talk about offensive operations, defensive operations, how to keep your Marines alive. And the worst thing I ever got on instructional rating forms, he didn't teach to the test. He didn't teach to teach the test. He taught to teach you what offense was, to what defense.
How in the fuck is that a bad thing?
But that's the difference between a careerist and a professional, in my mind, right? I mean, obviously, I was pretty good at infantry because
Remember what we said? Careerists make
what's best.
decisions based on their career, not based on whether it's the right or right thing to do. A professional will make decisions based upon what it's the right or wrong thing to do.
And I can look back and I can remember Millage giving a shit. I remember our conversations at school to a small degree, but I taught every infantry package, and I guarantee you at some point that I would harp on continuing action. I would harp on defense. And what's funny is the DNA. Like our DNA, and this is what's great.
It's all together.
It's what it being an old
Right
Marine.
now, all of our DNA is shared.
It's connected
in some way.
And right now, some kid who's still wearing the cloth is out there applying that, and that
he's got our DNA.
That leads to passing all this on,
That's
and lo and
right.
behold, here we go.
Well, to go ahead and try to paint the picture a little bit, just I'm going to say a little bit about JC. My last formal Marine Corps school training I had before this particular deployment was actually when he was one of my faculty advisors, if that's the correct terminology of what you did. And
Close enough.
And, I was already motivated, but you just instilled the fact that I shouldn't be ashamed to be motivated to be a Marine and do the right thing. And,
Amen, brother. Fucking man.
I know we talked about earlier about the Commandant's reading list and things like this. So, you know, a Marine in my particular MOS or job field, being that we don't get to live the day-to-day life that y'all get to, the only way I learn about combat or learn about how Marines are supposed to react and act other than formal schooling is to read these books. And I feel like if the Commandant of the Marine Corps told me as a staff sergeant, as a gunny, you know, on up, to read these particular books, that must mean I'm supposed to take something from them. And maybe that's how I'm supposed to act and conduct myself. So,
Well, by God, it sounded like you
Yeah.
took it to heart.
And I'm going to tell you right now that, you know, before you get into the story, but I think if you were to have an air wing interpretation of a dictionary, and there's the phrase bias for action, beside that is a picture of Gunnery Sergeant Wilson.
appreciate that.
I'm excited.
Well, so to try to halfway paint a picture, so I arrived in Bagram, Afghanistan. I mean, it was really late one particular evening. I always travel what they call lead. So what that means is I never travel with the main body. I kind of was a part of a special.
Advance.
It's a little bit different than that, to tell you the truth. So we had to carry our 5 aircraft, or however many aircraft we had at the time. We had to get them from Cherry Point. We had to get them from Cherry Point, North Carolina, to Afghanistan. So that's kind of a feat in itself, you know. So I can't remember completely how we left the East Coast, but we go through places like the Azores, which is in the Atlantic Ocean. You know, stop in Crete, which is in the Mediterranean, and then we go on into, you know, one of those weird like IUD
Azerbaijan
or somewhere like that, and then you go on into country. A tiger team of qualled out people, mostly staff NCOs and skilled people that catch the aircraft at these different spots and you know, make sure they're ready to go for, you know, refuel, and make sure that they're good to go, and then carry on. So that's why we arrived at a weird time. We didn't have a main body reception. Afghanistan or Bagram that particular night when we arrived was it was very dark, and we were very disoriented to get back to our area. But as soon as I got back to where, we called it our hooches, which was basically like a plyboard little area, me and some of the other staff NCOs immediately noticed that we're right beside a village, because I can smell the smoke from the cooking. I can see the mud huts, like 2-story mud huts, you know.
So you're within small arms range.
But we were within throwing a rock range, you know, or a grenade
Who
range.
was the genius that put y'all there?
Well, we were aboard an Air Force base, so Bagram was owned for.
Oh, we're familiar. Look, we're familiar with Bagram, and my only memory of that is we were coming out of the Korengal Valley,
Yes.
and I had an Air Force E9 jump on me because my rifle squad was taking part in a dodgeball tournament, and they almost started a riot, and I had to tell my Marines they were done going to the MWR tent because the Air Force was pissed we almost started a riot. So we understand the priorities at Bagram Airfield, and that was all the way in 2004, and this was
2010.
6 years. So 6 years later,
imagine what
yeah.
it's like.
Imagine what it was like.
Well, the Air Force officers wanted us to salute them on base, so to give you an idea,
They were complacent.
you don't salute.
They
on
thought nothing was
combat
going to
zone.
happen.
Yeah. But anyway, we were so far away from where the Air Force were even billeted. I mean, we had to walk, 15
That was
minutes.
by design.
Probably so.
Absolutely.
But anyway, even close by where we were billeted, there were even old Russian mines still that had not been.
We had a lieutenant lose a foot.
I know of a lieutenant that lost his foot that deployment too, but not one of ours. But anyhow, to get back to it, so we talk about the first 30 days and the last 30 days of a deployment, and once again, I heard that in a PME school. I read it in a book. I've had it preached to me in safety stand downs. So I believed it because I heard it so many times. So we get on deck. We're starting to fly ops. We flew all our operational area was all over the country of Afghanistan. We were just based out of Afghanistan. My main job was quality assurance on the aircraft as a gunny. I didn't have any troops at this time. So what that allowed me to do was I was invited to go on several patrols with an Army unit that their charge was to kind of do, what would you call those? I used to kind of know
Local security?
Local security. They didn't do security of the perimeter, but they would patrol the local villages in the
Presence
mountains.
patrols.
Presence patrols. and we're able to do that. And we were getting fed intel to my particular squadron that, you know, everything's safe. You may get some IDF, indirect fire, but everything's, you know, fine. I remember on the very first patrol, it was mounted and dismounted. We went and checked, you know, Afghanistan VCP. That was chaos. You know, that was not under control. And I could see the lights of Bagram Air Base. And then we went, you know, mounted back up, moved on in and did a dismount patrol through a village. And
how far would you guys patrol out? Did you have any sporting fires, mortars, or anything? Or were you on your own, or you don't know?
Because I only did several patrols, I was not ready in that much. But we had some overhead UAV stuff,
Okay.
you know, that had.
So you did have some.
Right.
Okay.
But as of artillery, I don't know how far away that could have been. Mortars, anything. Not aboard Bagram. Okay, so saying that, I remember still seeing the light glow where Bagram Air Base was on the mountain, and an adjacent, you know, unit that was pushing through was taking small arms fire. So I knew immediately that this is it's not what they're telling us.
There's
you
some stuff going on here.
Right, which I knew that anyway. I didn't have to be told. So it seemed like it was not too many days after my last, you know, little nighttime patrol like I did like that. I had a little time off. So normally I would go in at midnight, you know, to my little workspace. I think I was going to get up, you know, just mosey on in around 4 or 5 in the morning. And so I got up about 04 in the morning, and I was going to go take a piss. And as I do that, I always, because the way I was positioned, I was right by the perimeter HESCO barriers. And so only thing we were allowed to have, or our unit, you know, allowed us to take from the manpower of our unit was 2 Marines on duty. And we had a 24-hour duty, but we only had 2 Marines at a time. It was basically kind of like an entry and control point into our little camp, which was called, it actually had a name, it was called Camp McCool. And I saw one of the Marines throwing his M4 up like this. And I'm sorry, but my very first thought as a gunny was, that motherfucker's playing around, you know?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Not that I didn't think there was any threats out there, I just thought he was playing around because, I don't know. So I ran over there, but not in an asshole way, like, what's going on? And then I could tell immediately that the Marine, you know, was in a Cooper's color code state, you know, to you know.
He knew some shit was going down.
Right.
Sixth sense, something's getting ready to pop off.
That's right. And he looked at me and he goes, Gunny, I think something just came over the wall or the barrier, you know, some of those words. And I said, are you sure? You know, obviously. And I go, you sure it wasn't like a cat, a dog? And then we did have trouble with kids, you know, local country and national kids. And I'm like, we don't need to fuck this up and it'd be a kid, you know?
Right.
And he goes, no, I don't think so, but I see it right there in the grass. And I couldn't see.
And he's drawing a bead on it.
He's drawing a bead on it, but I'm trying to get in his purview and figure it out. And I said, I don't see it. I said, well, what we're going to do, because it's just right over there, literally. I could, you know, I'd say 30 meters, just give you, you know, at the most. And I'm like, well, that's doable. I can't go back and go to work without checking this out. That wouldn't be a good job as a gunny, you know. And about this time, here comes a Humvee, an Air Force Humvee with the upgun 50 cal, and they're like, and we stopped them. I'm like, hey, and I go, my, you know, sentry right here thought he saw something in the, right, you know, in the tall grass, you know, by the HESCO barrier over here, and they go, yes, we were sent over here to look around and see what's going on, but they acted so very nonchalant, and they were the most, you know, junior folks you could probably possibly send. I go, well, me and this Marine are going to just kind of, you know, I won't say patrol, but kind of go in an alert manner down there and check it out, and then we'll return. Just cover us. We kind of walk down, you know, kind of guns like this in the high alert, and all of a sudden, you know, now we know it's an enemy, you know, Taliban.
In the wire?
Inside the wire. In the tall grass. Okay, he jumps up, stop is what I say, because I don't know the rules of engagement completely, but I know if I shoot someone and it's not, you know, a clear, complete kill, I could get held accountable. You know, we didn't have ROE cards and all this stuff I was told I was supposed to get, you know.
Isn't that a shame, though? that you have to worry about some political bullshit like that.
Yeah.
That's some bullshit.
And you know, we've seen it done wrong. We've seen it done right.
We have.
And I'm telling you, there is no better job at explaining ROE than a commander that can look at you and go, men,
if
you're within harm's way, and if you think you or one of your brothers' life or limb is in danger, you kill him. You kill him.
Yeah.
Period.
That's the end of the story. Go ahead, man.
Well, so, and I think that's what I did really in the end, even though, so from the grenade to, going,
So this sucker threw out a grenade.
and then the grenade exploded. And within that little milliseconds of time, I told the other Marine to get down.
Did you get hit?
I got hit severely, actually.
With the grenade?
Yes. So immediately, it kind of, obviously y'all know this sensation where everything slows down.
Absolutely.
And even though it's so fast,
Absolutely.
it really seems very slow, and I'm like, here it comes, pop. And so I took some to my abdomen, and something come across my face. And, just your thoughts, I'm still standing, okay, I'm still in the fight. And I remember pulling the trigger 5 to 6 times right into the insurgent, And I do remember as I was turning to fall back to our little ECP, which is about 25 meters, back that way, I remember seeing that enemy insurgent fall. So I thought, threat gone, I thought. But then, on top of the HESCO was some more of what I call broom stage, like your grandmama has. She used to make a broom from it. There was several insurgents there, and there was another insurgent down on our side of the HESCO with a RPG dump pile of, RPGs. So he starts going, and then the RPG on top of, or the RPK on top of the HESCO starts going, and I don't know.
The RPK, tell him that's a machine gun.
Right, he's trying to, and I hate to use terminology that I don't always get in this situation, but the fatal funnel. I was in the fatal funnel.
Their attempt was to fix you with a support by fire and wear you out with a bunch of RPGs.
Right, and they were about to do a good job at it,
And I think what's important for the complacency. Mm-hmm. That kid had the presence of mind.
Bless that kid. I mean, what a great job that Sentry had to do.
And he's like, oh shit, this is for real now.
He could have been like, nothing's going to happen.
And I had something similar happen to me where a PFC was on the roof and he goes, Staff Sergeant, I just saw 3 guys in black man jams cross the street and go in that building. Mm-hmm. Hey, note, trust your Marines.
But the thing
Trust
about
your
it
Marines.
is we were in combat then.
Yes.
He was on an airway where complacency
it's run amok. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
But it was not in my mind,
Right. But his Marine and the Gunny, they had the presence of mind to say, "Hey,
yes,
this is
yes.
we're still
so they're
good on that kid, whoever the hell he is."
Their attempt was
Lance Corporal Craddock, right? Is that correct?
Lance Corporal Craddock.
Was that the fat one?
Yeah. We get to that point. We get to that part.
He saved a lot of lives.
There are that while rare, there are some good fat Marines.
Who cares? He saved a lot of lives.
The reason I said fat one is because it's going to come into play here real quick, and Millage is going to tell you why he's a big fan of the height and weight standard.
Even though I don't have it right now.
But you look awful trimmed us, buddy. So,
but anyway, so basically grenade off, RPK, RPG. Guess what happened to this Humvee with the upgun? Did they help?
They get hit.
did the 50 cal even work?
No, they DD Mouthed out of Dodge.
Oh my God. They left you there.
They left.
Wait a minute.
You're going to make us mad now. Now we're going to get.
So you're telling me this Air Force gun truck
Yes.
with a 50 caliber machine gun left you guys?
They could have ended it right there.
How far away was the Taliban?
They were all amongst us. I would say within 10 meters to 30 meters.
If I had a kid on that machine gun truck, that kid would have had a hard on. He's like, they're 30 meters. Should have been flying everywhere.
What a waste. God frowns upon that.
But you know what? I feel like that this part has been covered up by the military.
Now you're on your own. Now you're
Yeah.
basically you and how many Marines are up there now?
So now it's still just 3 Marines. So myself and the Marine that went out there with me to check.
So you got 3 Marines. You got a shit ton of insurgents with an RPK automatic machine gun, RPGs.
Yes.
AK-47s, and you and just another Marine with
And
one
they're hawking grenades
Yes.
at you.
and they're throwing grenades.
And we're still trying to get our situational awareness because we don't train to something so complex as this. You know what I mean?
That's a shit sandwich for anybody.
Anybody, that's a shit sandwich.
And so it seems like to me, as soon as we got back to what I call our little ECP, and I remember that we had to even build up some sandbags just to give you a place to stand to check an ID. So that we're all kind of huddled in there, and I'm waiting for the insurgents to flood into our ECP, and I was just going to fight. We're going to fight there. In my mind, I don't know if those Lance Corporals knew they were going to fight there, but that's what we were going to do. But I started hearing, so I could hear shots, and they, coming at a rapid rate, explosions at a rapid rate.
Sound, isn't it?
But I couldn't identify a target anywhere, so I didn't feel it necessary to just spray the night sky.
You're bleeding right now.
But I know that,
You're
but
wounded.
I'm wounded. But obviously the adrenaline
You have
behind
the
it.
presence of mind. That's what it's.
Yes, and then I'm thinking about all those books that I read. What is a Gunner Sergeant Bass alone? I mean, we can keep on naming Gunner Sergeant Dan Daly, and I'm like, they didn't fucking give up at this point or fuck it up. I can't fuck it up. I'm not putting what happened to me on their level, but I'm thinking this is how I'm supposed to act right
Brother,
now.
you are true. You do us proud. You are a buddy. You do us so proud. I'm getting goosebumps, man. You do the level of personal responsibility for those men. Millage, goddamn it, that's why, man. Wow.
Are you kidding me right now? Look, just look at that, man. I'm fucking getting mad.
Man,
that is what it's all about
Wow.
right there. I'm telling you right now.
That's
Holy
deep.
fuck. That man.
So all this is going on. You're wounded. A third Marine has entered the fray, and all you're thinking is they're going to, and that's probably what they were trying to do. They were going to flood and do as much damage as they could.
They had.
Yes.
I guarantee it.
And your fucking support by fire left.
Yes.
The 50 cal left.
I guarantee
Right.
it. They were not dependent on a Marine doing his fucking job out there.
No, they were not. They may have known that there was a Marine unit there. Maybe they don't
They knew
distinguish
they were
the
complacent.
fishing.
No, they know who Marines are.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm telling you right now, you guys had been profiled and patterned for probably months leading up to that attack.
Absolutely.
Guarantee it.
But so it was the other unit that was profiled, and we're just
Right.
the new unit that rotated in.
They didn't know old Gunny Wilson was out there, him and the fat Lance Corporal, ready to handle business. Ready to
But so let me try to get the picture back, zooming in small. So because there's two Marines on duty at all times, I'm the gunny that showed up needing to go to piss, just checking on the guard duty like I always do every day, all the time. Okay, so we did have one alarm that we had. We had an air horn. Where we got it, I don't know. And we're supposed to sound the alarm in case fire disorder, right? That's basically how simple it was. And so I do remember him blowing the air horn, and that basically meant for everyone within our little hooches in our compound to go to.
Grab your shit and go to it.
Well, unfortunately, not that in depth. The base was getting attacked. The base knew they were getting attacked. We did not know the base knew that they were getting attacked because guess what? We'd never established comms with base defense as a unit, individual unit, because we're just willy-nilly, we're just flying airplanes every day. That's all we do, And it pisses me the hell off when I think about it.
the level of irresponsibility.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
I don't.
Fucking that guy, you know what, man? Fuck.
So the base knew. Why did they not tell us? But why did we not establish some hardcore comms? From the beginning. Always have the intel. Always be able to talk. I know we're flying airplanes, but we also live in Afghanistan, and guess what? The war on terror has no front line. Don't tell me the fight's over there in the Helmand province.
There's no friendly line.
No, it's the war on terror. The front line is the 360. That's my thought. Anyway.
Leaders in the absence of clear guidance from ROEs, leaders have to establish that there is nothing more important than your brothers and your sisters. That's period, and that's got to happen. And you've got to carry yourself.
What a shame.
What a shame. You really put some great Americans out there in a bad spot, but shameful.
So
Because I'm trying to gain situational awareness and either fight or maybe fall back to a better defendable position, get more of my unit's Marines up, maybe back brief, some other leadership higher than me, like my CO or, you name it. But while that was happening, there was an Apache already in the air, and I've seen the FLIR of it, and you can't tell the difference between us and the enemy. And here comes inside the wire cast, rotor wing cast, y'all seen it before. I've seen it from afar in Afghanistan.
Now, were they shooting their main gun, or were they
I don't know if I don't know what, I think it's a 30 millimeter.
Yeah, it's a cannon.
Apache.
Yeah.
It was coming in. I remember seeing the first lightning bolt inside our compound, and it just knocked us for a loop, So I do remember that. So, the Taliban was constant fire, and as soon as that Mike came in, 30 Mike, it knocked us kind of silly, and it knocked the Taliban silly because everything lulled out for a second.
Sure.
And I remember just kind of being dazed and looking at glowing pieces of metal on the ground in my camp, which is probably the pieces of the 30 millimeter, I'm guessing, glowing. So, that gunship in the FLIR, you can't tell if it's us or them. There could have been fratricide in there.
And you weren't talking to them because you had no way to talk to them.
No way to talk to them. Especially, I think later they started fixing that. Later on in the fight.
Think? Yeah.
A good ops center. And there is a reason, and I hate to say this because I hated being at an NCO academy, but they teach this across the Marine Corps. Rear area security is a big fucking deal.
Absolutely.
It's got to be done right. And if you go watch 10th Marines or 11th Marines or artillery, they have local security plans because guess what? Artillery pieces are a big target.
Yes.
I guarantee when tankers set up in a security pause at night, they have ground-mounted infantry integration that guards it.
Yes.
How could you not do that with air platforms? That's
because they depend. So the Marine Corps at this time, we're the only Marine Corps unit on base, other than maybe some special operations forces and things like that. Because they had their, you had the SEAL and the Green Beret compound over there at Bagram. But anyway, so this was happening to us. And so by this time I heard someone hollering, like screaming in pain and agony. And I'm thinking maybe the Taliban I shot, And so I'm trying to communicate with people. I'm hollering out, and here comes a captain out of nowhere, looks at my face bleeding, and then leaves, So I don't know what he did. I know later he got an award, so maybe he can contact me and tell me what he did. I don't know still. But so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, we can no longer obtain this ECP right here, and then the other Marine, he's gone. So I got this wounded, Lance Corporal Craddock, but he got shot by, a 7.62 version of a round. So I don't know if it came from AK or RPK. He had a Leatherman, and one of these $1 billion, chaos crazy things went into the Leatherman, and it did go into his body, but it did not implode. The way he was bleeding, I thought it took out everything. That's what I thought in there. Thank God it did not. But he was on the ground, and I'm like, I got to get him back. Just really, I only had to move another 30 meters to the rear, or 20 meters. But so I grab him. I'm like, we can't hold this position. I got nobody up here. Somewhere in all that mess of getting, probably fratricide casts, and I got hit by something else. I can see.
You got hit again.
And somewhere in there, I got hit again. I know, because I felt the impact, and I was getting more weak. You're
losing blood. You're going in shock.
Right. So I started dragging him, and this is where it comes. And I was a pretty stout gunny.
I can vouch for that.
Because I remember one time you were grading me on pull-ups on a PFT. You don't remember this? And I did 20. And then I did another one, and then you said, now you're showing off. And then I got off the bar because I didn't want to show off. You said that to me. It's okay if you don't remember it.
I could hear me saying something like that.
But I was in pretty decent shape anyway, but I couldn't drag him. And he was kind of heavy set. And I think that if he would have been lighter and helped me drag him, like kick his feet or something, so I couldn't get him any further. So I threw him back into that ECP. And this is a matter of probably, the story seems like it's taking an hour, but this is a very rapid amount of time. And I remember taking the sandbags that we had in that ECP and trying to grab them and just cover him up like he's not there. Because I'm thinking as soon as I leave here, the Taliban's coming in, they're going to, as they come through, and then they're coming for us. I'm dragging Craddock, and that's when the RPG came. And the RPG, it either hit a flagpole or a metal surface that was sticking up from the ground, and it just coned out, and it hit me in the back like a baseball bat. And that one I felt. All the others I did not feel to that extent, and it knocked the wind.
You didn't have no gear on, or
I had no gear on, and it knocked the wind out of me, and then it immediately took my calf off. I still have it, so it didn't take it like bye gone. And I'm like, uh-oh. That's when I said, I cannot drag this dude anymore. Let me do the sandbag thing. And I'm thinking, I got a bunch of hard charging gunnies in my hooch. I'll just run back to my hooch, go grab one of them, come help me get Craddock. I wouldn't.
they running towards you? Well,
Nobody was running, unfortunately. And, I've looked at the FLIR. I've looked at we had a G-Boss, we had everything. We didn't
They've
have
got
access
footage
to
of
it.
this.
Yes, there's footage out there, but it's hard to find it now. But I go running to my hooch trying to find one of my buddies that was a fellow staff and CO. Most of them were gunnies. They were all, I guess I know now, were in the IDF bunkers. So it happened to be the very next bunker I come to. It just happened. They see me, and I kind of was going there anyway. And the very first person I see was Gunner Sergeant Young, who is dead now, unfortunately, and then my CO. And then I rapidly back brief them.
with your calf hanging off.
I didn't see it with my own eyes, but they probably saw all this,
And you're bleeding all over the back.
I don't care about that. I'm just trying to get the sit rep down.
I got a fat kid on a post that's been shot, and I've got sandbags on it.
And I'm about to go back for him again. I was about to leave those motherfuckers and go back,
Man.
But our Sergeant Major Kevin Conboy, he kind of understood, and I communicated with him, and he DD mouthed over and got Craddock up, and I think he kind of
Sergeant Major ran over there and got him?
right, and I think he kind of ran up and popped up, and they kind of got over, But so I'm back briefing my commanding officer, and the original reason why I went to go out there and check I checked the ECP. I had to go pee. It was supposed to be a normal night, so I still haven't peed yet. And so I.
Marines have got to multitask, and we were telling this story earlier, and it's every time I would get up to take a piss at night, or for whatever reason, if you get up at night, it's not just to go wake this guy up or do this. Hey, let me go check on Corporal Bodette, who's been on post for the past 3 hours. And you don't go with the intention of, let me see what I can catch him doing wrong.
Right.
Hey, bud, are you doing okay up here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've accomplished the mission knowing my staff and CO, my leader is going to come check on me. And that's going to matter. And then they're going to go tell their buddies, not only check on me, he brought me a Gatorade. He looked out for my welfare. Well, no shit, did you not only look out for his welfare, man? Wow.
But anyway, so this is the comical part of the story. So I'm sitting there, and I'm a couple of my, I would say staff and SEAL buddies, because the junior Marines, I don't know what they were doing, but I just remember staff and SEALs around me. That's just what I remember. Not saying that nobody else didn't do anything great at that particular point, but I back briefed my CO, and I remember telling my CO, I got to pee. And he goes, no, you got to get in the bunker. I'm like, fuck that. I don't care no more.
You had to pee?
Yeah, right. And so I just stood up, and I was just, I don't know. I'm like, fuck you, Taliban, is what I was thinking in my mind. And I peed, and it was very hard to pee. But it finally came out. And then I remember while I was doing that, they were putting a tourniquet on my leg. And I remember people putting pressure dressings on my back and stomach. And I remember them laying me down. And this is another kind of silly thing, but I said, in the cowboy movies, when they lay you down and you got gut shot, because basically I was, you die. And I'm like, don't lay me down, let me stand up. And but I did, and as soon as they were laying me down, here comes the darkness.
Yeah.
We can get to this later, but I went to the white light situation, and that's a story for another day. But then I remember a big explosion when I was heading toward the white light. Big explosion, kaboom! And then I remember it was just all the my staff and CO friends that I kicked it with. I could hear them go 1, 2, 3, and what they were doing was lifting me up on a litter, and they're taking me out to one of the Haji trucks. And I remember my boss at the time. I worked for that was Gunny Young, who's now dead. He was back there on tailgate, guns up, and then another Gunny Wilson was driving. They had to get me back about 15 minutes to where Dust Off was that's where the triage was. You know, so
15 minutes across the camp.
And to get you back on the bird and get you out of there, right? Or,
well, they had to do immediate surgery there on me
right,
at Bagram. So I was in and out. But one thing I do remember is as we're leaving the ECP again, we're still in a it's not secured. You know, we're still in a conflict or in a kinetic situation. So we're getting shot at as we're coming out the ECP. You know, Marines are laying down fire at this point. Now it's daylight. You know, and people can see. People are engaging threats now. And, you know, keep in mind that I don't know how many folks I killed, but I know I killed one at least. They were all laden with suicide vests, too. So that's a whole different threat to begin with.
We've seen this story.
I've seen that fucking story.
We sure have.
We sure have. Me and JC's seen that before.
But so I remember as we went through the ECP, the other Gunny Wilson, he kind of laid on, you know, it's a manual transmission, laid on it too much. And almost threw us all out the back. So I'm like, here we go again. I'm going to die by getting thrown out the back of the truck. You know?
Hey, we know about that too.
Yeah, we sure do.
We know about that
you
too.
know, so then, you know, they hauled ass, and I don't remember all the details, but then I remember being hand carried like a baby, you know, into the triage area, and them trying to put a catheter. And I remember them trying to put a catheter in me, and they couldn't get it in there or whatever. And then they just, you know, sedated me from there, you know. But the fight was still going on, you know, and so, but you know.
And bottom line, if that Marine wouldn't have noticed that, and they wouldn't have had a gunnery sergeant out there doing his job, checking on his Marines, a lot of people would have died. Aircraft would have been lost. All kinds of shit. Kudos to you, man. All my respect to you, brother.
But no, thank you.
That is the epitome of professional responsibility.
No, that's what fucking staff and COs do.
Yeah.
They don't talk a sword manual and all that other stuff that's important at a time.
Yes.
Right? But that right there is why we exist. And that's why they make gunnery sergeants just like you.
I know. I appreciate it.
So if you're out there listening and you find yourself in a you know, a logistics unit or an air wing unit or a reserve unit that only does this 2 weeks out of the year, every other 1 weekend every month, you find yourself in harm's way, it pays for you to not only appreciate, but you better dip your toe in the water and know a little bit about being a fucking rifleman, because guess what? The Taliban, wherever we end up next, the enemy doesn't discriminate.
No.
They don't give a shit. They're going to kill you. And for that kid to be on his toes and for you to be out there, man, my hat's off to you, brother.
Being a Marine rifleman, and you just showed it. Everybody says every Marine's a rifleman, which is true. But goddamn it, you got to live it and do it if you really want to claim that title.
Yes.
My brother, you have definitely claimed that title. And so are your Marines.
And
all my respect.
And I will close it out with this. We talked about, you know, we started the show talking a little bit about the circle of the DNA that's been spread between the four of us, and it's still out there floating in the active. It's out there still floating around. It's still floating out there in the Fleet Marine Force. Those gunnery sergeants. Nobody makes gunny on accident, generally speaking. If you make it to gunny, you're probably pretty good.
Yeah.
All those gunnies took that lesson and they gave it to somebody. They lived it for real. And I guarantee you on their next deployment, or they found themselves somewhere doing this or doing that, their Marines were probably a little bit tighter. They probably understood, not only is this my field of fire, but I have a range card. I know where my dead space is. I know where the enemy could potentially come from. Let me go talk to S2 and see what's up. Where's my G-Boss camera located?
No, it's just something as simple as making sure that your weapon is functioning. Making sure that you have water. Making sure that you have your continuing action. Making sure you're doing the right fucking thing. You know, it's something as simple as that people make so goddamn difficult.
And you know what?
That kills people.
And you know what? This is the other thing. And you know, people all the time. You see a lot of podcasts, a lot of shows out there. Infantry, this, SEAL, Ranger, Green Beret, Sniper, Recon, all these things. Look, you and me as 03s, our day job is infantry. Their day job is something else. And I think a lot of the leaders in those communities forget at the root of what we do. We better be a fucking rifleman.
How many podcasts have you seen anywhere that talks about some air wing gunnery sergeant kicking fucking ass and killing bad people?
You don't. And you know what?
And you know, listen, not just air wing, but just a Marine just fucking doing his fucking job.
Yeah, it sounds right. It sounds real soft, so it's real sexy to talk about this guy that we can't talk about.
Yeah.
But what people need to know is real Marines are badasses and they do badass things. Millage,
Amen.
hey, we love you, brother. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Bo.
We are
Definitely are the man.
Hey, we
You're the man.
are going to have a good time this weekend.
Yes.
You are the man, my brother.
Well, I love y'all, so thank you so much.
Glad to have you, brother.